Hey, hello everyone. We're going to start our user group session today. I want to thank everyone on the line for joining. My name is Relita and I will be walking us through the intro. So agenda for today, as I said, I'm just going through the introductions and a bit of housekeeping. Then we're going to look into what's new in point of sale and activity management, and then followed by tips and tricks, and we're going to have a Q&A session for you. So I want to introduce and to everyone on the line today. We have Steve Terzikny. He's the product owner of Jonas Encore, so he's going to present on what's new in point of sale today. And Corey Reed, he's the director of professional services. He's going to present on what's new in activity management and also tips and tricks. So both of them are the subject matter experts in Encore, so they'll be happy to answer any questions that you have throughout the webinar. And my name is Relita. I'm the digital education specialist here, and I focus on creating educational content for our products, including tutorial videos. So please feel free to reach out to us with any suggestions so we can provide the content that you need. So here is some information for our customer support. If you ever need assistance with Encore, we have their contact number and email address here. And we recommend you to check out our new support site at support.jonasclub.com. If you haven't had any access yet, you can request access on the site and our support team will assist you. So once you're logged in, you'll be taken to this dashboard. If you have any questions, you can use the search field to search for the knowledge base articles. You can also log a support case here and view the release notes. And to take advantage of the latest features, you'll need to ensure that your Jonas Encore software is updated. So for more information on how to do that, feel free to watch the how to schedule an update of Jonas Encore video that is linked on the slide. And we also just launched What's New in Jonas Encore courses. So these courses are the replacement of What's New webinars that we used to have. The content is accessible at any time. You can pick which modules that are relevant to you, and you can do it at your own pace. We will be updating the content every 2 quarters, and we'll announce it in our new monthly newsletters. So feel free to check this out. We also offer a variety of different bootcamps, so they go at different times. You can see the link at the bottom of the slide here for more information. If there's something that might be of interest to you, or if you need a refresher on any of those modules, we'll recommend you to check out these bootcamps. And along with that, we do have training. So whether your club is new to Jonas and you need a full implementation on your system, or maybe you've added some new modules, we have our implementation specialist who will implement and work with you and get you all set up and trained on those modules. And we're also creating e-learning courses. It's still a work in progress right now, but we're aiming for it to be up next year. It's a self-guided training that you could walk through and complete at your own time. So if you have any training inquiries for Encore, you could contact us at encoretraining@jonasclub.com. And the last one I want to talk about here is an example of what you're going to see throughout the What's New section today. Pretty much all of the slides will look like this. You can see the title of the release feature is, followed by the release number and month. So this means that you have to be on this release number for your Encore to have access to the new feature. So besides that, it also shows you where you could find the feature in the software, and we're also provided the description of the release itself. And you can also find a screenshot to show you what the new feature looks like. And as mentioned before, if there is a tutorial video available, it will be linked with the video icon on the bottom left of the slide. So with that said, thank you again for coming, and I'll be passing it over to Steve that will be starting off with what's new in point of sale.
Thanks, Relita. Just a brief introduction to myself. I've been with Jonas for roughly 19 years. I started off in Clubhouse Online working in the training department, and then in the support department, and then I moved to Encore support around 2012, 2013, when the product was underway. Recently, I switched to our technology department, and now I'm focused on a product for Encore. So I've been working within the product for about 4 months now, and I hope to bring some good features out for everyone shortly. So let's get started with a few point of sale items. We're going to actually review some from last year that our clients may not know about. So we're going to start with a few layout items and table items. So in 2023, we released an enhancement to our tables within the point of sale chip processing section. One thing that we can do now within the chip processing and the order screen is to show a warning message as to how long the order has been waiting to be sent. So that's kind of a new feature. On the right-hand side, you can see it within point of sale settings that we have an option here to specify a number of minutes and then alter the table color within your point of sale layout screen to show when an order has not been sent to the kitchen yet. It'll also show on the bottom of your chip processing screen. It'll show you the time elapsed. You'll notice that the screen has been updated back in 2023. So now we show this time elapsed in minutes at the bottom here. So just to turn it on, go into point of sale settings, enter the number of minutes and specify that alert table color. Another addition that we've added to a chit is the ability to select the gender for a seat. So you can turn this on through sales area settings. Under point of sale tables and covers, there's an option here to identify gender by seat. So here, when you're in chip processing and you've selected a seat number within your table, you can identify the gender of that seat, whether it's male, female, or child. And this will show up on your prep order. It'll show the gender adjacent to the seat number here. Okay, and we do have a video of this as well on our Encore channel. Also in 2023, we introduced printer redirection, and this allows you to alter where orders are being sent to within the printer setup itself. So under system administration printers, we have an option to specify another printer that you want to direct your orders to. So sometimes you'd have to alter the setup of your point of sale items, whether it's your items, your item groups, categories. Instead, if you need to redirect orders from a printer, let's say a printer's offline, or you want to temporarily move those orders to a different printer in your system, you can go into the printer setup under the printer redirection tab and select another printer that you want to send those orders to. And then you can also specify whether it's going to be all the time, so there's no time specified here, or a particular time range in the day. Also in 2023, we enhanced our countdown capabilities and allowed users to set up countdowns per sales area. So within your item setup, if you go under the countdown tab, there is a new option to track the countdowns for items by sales area. Once you turn that on, this tab on the right-hand side would become available, countdown settings by sales area. And then you can specify the sales area and then the countdown options for every area. And we also have a video of this within our Encore channel on YouTube. And lastly, in 2023, we introduced the status, the table statuses. So we now have a status associated to a table after a chit's been settled. It'll mark the table as dirty, and the users can then mark the table as ready or ready and start a new chit right from the table layout. So this is how the view is from your table layout. You can see the different colors of a table that is not available. And to set it up, you can go into point of sale settings, look under the layout colors, and at the bottom you'll see table not ready status. Turn it on and then set the color here. And then this is a global setting for all sales areas, but you can override each individual sales area under the point of sale tab and select the option disable table not ready dirty status. So if you do turn it on, you can configure which sales areas are not going to use the table status. Okay, early in 2024, we introduced the option to specify a markup for multiple items within a chit. So previously you'd have to select one item, select the markup option, and then alter the price per item. Now you can select multiple items within your chit and then hit item markup, and then mark up your item using percentage or amount values on the right. In February, we've introduced the option to split your chits and finalize your chits all in one step. So on the bottom right here, you see an option that says finalize and settle. And this would require point of sale sales area to be set up with a settle and close option payment item. So in order to use the settle option within split chit, you'd have to set up your settle and close option to be a member charge. And then you can use finalize and settle, which will allow you to split the chits and then settle them all in one shot without returning to each chit and then selling them to cash or member charge. We've introduced the ability to do a timeout for point of sale. And what this will do is just specify a number of minutes that a screen is idle before the system will log the user out. So this becomes handy if you're in, if you have workstations in the dining room and you want to automatically log out users that have logged in. You can set up this option under Global Settings, Security, POS Automatic Security Timeout. And then within each workstation, you can also override that value and alter the number of minutes. And again, what this will do is within chip processing, it would log the user out if the screen has been idle for the specified number of minutes. And this only applies to touchscreen workstations. Another addition for touchscreen workstations is the ability to enter a username and password using just a keypad. So one request we had was to remove the alphanumeric keyboard that we have in point of sale and just have a numeric keypad for user accounts that just have numbers as their username and password. So you can go into each workstation setup, check off numeric keypad for login, and then when the users are logging into that workstation, you'll notice now it's just a keypad. One big addition we had in the summer in 2024 is the addition of the chit edit log report. This was a common request amongst our client base, and we've created this report to provide various details about chits. You can filter by dates, you can filter by chit creation or chit updates, the user for that chit, sales area meal periods, and a member, if a member is associated to that chit. And the actions that will log, chit creation, voids, change of owners. So if a server has picked up a chit for another server, change of sales areas, any changes to the member associated to the chit, table, settlement actions, discounts, item markups. If you're a tea time client, if we undo the check-ins, we'll log them here. If we flag a chit to be surcharge exempt, and if we combine chits. So you'll find this under point of sale reports, chit edit log report. A new addition to time tracker would be the option for a view time card within the print time card screen. So where users are clocking in and clocking out, we've added a new option that does not require a user to print the time card to a printer on the computer. So they can just hit view time card and see the same printout as they would if they sent the print job to a printer. In order to add this, go into time tracker settings under time card tab and then click enable view time card. Now let's go through a few mobile POS enhancements that we've completed. So in March 2024, we've added support for reciprocal club configured member accounts to prompt the user during mobile POS processing and enter the member name and number details of that member under the reciprocal account. So an option within Encore point of sale, and we can now do that within the mobile app. Another addition to the mobile interface is the ability to capture signatures. So as long as your sales areas are set up to prompt for signatures within Encore point of sale, you can go in here, turn this on under the staff mobile app settings for mobile POS, and prompt for signature. Check that off, and then the app will now ask the user to add the signature to the chip. Another addition to mobile POS is the ability to fire courses. So this is something that we've recently done and released earlier this month in November. And the option here is to use courses in mobile POS as you would in Encore POS. So you can alter the course of items. Obviously, there's a default for the items, but you can alter the course for the items. You can fire courses using the additional option that you see at the bottom of your app. And you can select the courses to fire. And then lastly, you can also review the send and fire details of your order by clicking on the review button at the bottom. Okay, a few items in inventory that we can review here. In 2024 April, we've released the ability to select sales categories during a snapshot creation process. So when you're building your snapshot, you can do just specific item categories versus all categories. Only sales items belonging to the selected sales categories would be included in the snapshot and the inventory creation process. That's something we did earlier this year. And during the count process, we also have an option now to show the variance. So when you're reviewing your counts and entering your counts, we will show a variance column, and you can also filter the results here by items that have a variance. Okay, now I'm going to turn it over to Corey to go over the activity modules.
Thanks, Steve. If you just want to flip the screen sharing over to me, I'll get us set up. Okay, I guess you should be able to see my screen now. Hi, everyone. This is Corey Reed. I'm the Director of Professional Services here at Jonas Club. I'm going to be going through what's new in some of our activity modules when it comes to bookings and reservations and such. And then I'll also be taking us through some tips and tricks when it comes to point of sale, inventory, and activity modules. So first up, an enhancement we did to the event management module in August of 2023. So a bit of an old one, but I wanted to make sure to highlight it here because it was a highly requested feature from a lot of clubs. Was the ability for us to show edit logs in event management. So when users make edits to certain events, event details such as the facilities or services or resources, things like that, we are now tracking those edits so that you can see the edits on the event. So you can see on the screenshot here, I won't read every single option, but these are all the items and places that we are now tracking those edit logs. And just a little bit more on that, note here says anything that's added, modified, or deleted within those areas. Once you save the event, those changes will be logged within the View Edits tab of the event. And the following aspects of the change will be logged. So we're logging the things like the date and time the user made the change, what the change or action was, who made the change, the area it was made in. We've also got a reference, which depends on what was changed. The field changed and what they changed it from and what they changed it to. There's also the ability to put a reason and a reason note. Also then the details within that change can be seen by clicking on the magnifying glass. And this just gives you a look at that screen. So if you're inside of an event and event management, you just click the View Edits button, which will be the last tab you see in the event. And then this bottom screenshot shows you what those details look like when you click on the details option so that you could drill down on those edits. Okay, sticking with the theme of edit logs, just a couple of months ago in September of 2024, we expanded upon those edit logs to now actually log edits when it comes to deleted events. So prior to this release, whenever a user would delete an event entirely, it was pretty much just blown out of the system. It was a hard delete and we didn't have any real trace of it. So now we are tracking those deleted events as well. An enhancement we did here is in the event edit log report, there's also an option now in the parameters that you can say show deleted events. And you could now run a report on those deleted events and actually pull up their edits that came with those deleted events as well, rather than them just kind of disappearing like they did before. Okay, and an enhancement we did last year to an event management, which was a big one, was the ability to have a rich text editor here that shows formatted text or where you can format the text. So to be able to highlight items or make them bold or different font styles. So, different areas in the system where you're putting in descriptions or notes, such as the services or resources or facilities. You can now use this rich text editor to show formatted text. If you do elect to use that option, you would have to contact our support team to help you out a little bit with the form design. So your form you're using for, say your BEO or your function sheet does need to support this feature. So if you have a custom form you had designed prior to this feature being released, you might just need to log a quick support call with our team, and they could help you to turn this feature on for your current custom forms that you have designed. Sticking with event management, enhancement we did in February is for registration events. We now show multiple tabs. So for events with multiple seatings, we can show a separate tab for each seating. Prior to this release, the registration list was pretty much just one global list, and beside each registrant, it would show which seating they were signed up for. So this enhancement allows you to separate those seatings. So in my example here, you could click on the seating at 1 o'clock in the main dining room, and you can see just the list of registrants that were signed up for that seating. Then you could toggle over to the separate seating for the grand ballroom at 1 o'clock, and you could see the list of registrants for that seating. Okay. Just a quick note on that enhancement. If you are using the different tabs for multi-seating there, when you're inside of those tabs and you're using any of the functions such as send registrants to email marketing, or if you're going to send a push notification to registrants, or if you want to print the list, for example, all of those functions are now going to be specific to the tab that you're in. So just keep that in mind. I would only print the list that you're in, or only send push notifications to the registrants that are in that seating tab that you're currently on when using those functions. Another enhancement we did to event management in June of 2024 is the ability to save and load certain formats or preferred formats when it comes to the program where it allows you to print or email event forms. So if any of you use this feature, it's pretty handy where you can print or email event forms over a date range. So if you have say a BEO meeting every Tuesday and you want to print out all the event orders for the week, most users would use this program to print all those event orders for that date range. So if you have specific parameters that you plug in every time when using this feature, you can now save that format and then use that format next time, so you don't have to toggle all the options each time you're going to run that program. Sticking with event management enhancement we did in September, we now allow the ability to store documents to registration style events. So if you have our document management module, which allows you to attach outside documents into the system on a specific event, this was always available when it came to banquet style events where, say it's a wedding or meeting or something like that. But it was not available when it came to club registration events, things like Mother's Day or Easter brunch. So before this documents tab was disappeared and we didn't allow that, we've now added the ability to store documents on all types of events, including registration events. Another enhancement to event management, this is in regards to the view on the calendar view by week or month. So in a very busy club, when you have a lot of events on a specific day or week, before it was hard to see all of the events on the calendar view. It would only show a certain number of events and then it would sort of cut off. We've now allowed a button at the bottom right that you can see here that allows you to expand that list and now actually scroll up and down so that you can see all of your events on a day that might have a lot of events going on for a busy day. Now moving on to an enhancement here to dining reservations. In February of 2024, we added the ability for you to now disallow online bookings by meal periods. So prior to this release, the only option was pretty much global by facility. Either you could turn on a facility for online reservations or you could turn off a facility for online reservations. This now allows you to go to a specific meal period, say, for dinner on Thursday night, and you could turn off online reservations just for that one meal period. So if your club only allows online reservations certain days of the week, but other days you do not want to allow online reservations, you can now go to your meal period settings on the facility and disallow online reservations for one particular meal period, for example. Now moving on to some enhancements here for class scheduling. So in April of 2024, we've now released the ability to set specific email settings by activity type. So this is useful for clubs that might have multiple departments using class scheduling. So let's say you have the tennis department using class scheduling, and you also have the fitness center using class scheduling. Prior to this release, the email settings had to be global. It had to kind of come from one email address, and then the form that was sent for email confirmations and such was one generic email form. Now you can actually customize that per activity type, where each of those activity types, you could set up a different email address that they come from, for example, and you could also set up different forms for those activity types. You could also even just turn off emails for certain activity types. So you now have that flexibility by activity type to customize your email settings. Staying with class scheduling enhancement we did here in August, we now actually move waitlist registrations in classes to the current list automatically when a user either cancels or deletes their registration from the current list. Prior to this release, all waitlist registrations had to be moved manually by users at the club. Now the system will actually automatically move the registration from the waitlist to the current list. There are some exceptions to that, such as when there are courses and single registrations versus entire course registrations. So just keep that in mind. Next up in class scheduling, we now allow you to add guests without having to add them to the guest database. So prior to this, we required you to actually go set up a guest. You had to create a guest profile, create their name and information and such, and save that to the guest database. For any clubs that don't wish to save all of the guests' information, or maybe just for the purposes of speed, they just want to put in the guest names information and move on. You can now actually add the guests without having to add them to the guest database. You can also even just create the reservation with an unidentified guest along with a member, such as you see in the screenshot here. You don't necessarily have to even type in their guest name if you don't wish to do so. Another enhancement we did to class scheduling in September, we now have the ability to override the retail price and the member price on a given class registration fee. Prior to this, you had to actually set up a separate sales item so that that sales item could have its unique price for this class. So now you could actually get away with just setting up a generic class sales item that's go into your proper GL account and tax codes and such, and then you could actually customize the price on a class-to-class basis. So that pretty much wraps up our What's New section. We're now going to move on to some tips and tricks when it comes to point of sale and activity management. So the first one, if any of you attended the accounting seminar on Tuesday, this might be a bit of a repeat, but I wanted to actually make sure to highlight this too for any point of sale users on this webinar. The first one here is dealing with column filters. We get a common question from users when we're training them or working with clients where they ask about inactive items. Why am I still seeing them? So that's a very common thing to say, I've deactivated an item, but it's still showing here. I want to get rid of it. Why can't I see it anymore? Because we don't like to delete items in Jonas because we do want to keep your history and sales reporting all intact. So we don't want to allow you to delete it, but instead we recommend deactivating the item. So what I want to point out here to everyone is how to filter your lists when it comes to active versus inactive items. So you can actually hide those inactive items if you want to. This works in most of our major setup grids, such as point of sale, sales items, prep options, things like that. And just to briefly demo that one for you guys, I'm going to flip over to my Encore system. So if I open up a common screen that you guys use every day, is be something like sales items, right? So I pull up point of sale, and let's say I deactivate a particular item. So if I open up this item and make it inactive, apologies, that one's not going to allow me to deactivate it, but I'm sure I have one I can find here. There we go. Here's a couple I already have inactive. So these guys, I just want to show you how they disappear. There you go. So this item here, I've already got inactive. The way you can make them go away or disappear from your grid is if you want to go to this filter on the active column, and you could actually filter this to say only show true items, which means only show active items. And now you would see that disappear where I no longer see those inactive items. And the nice thing is if I want to bring them back, I can simply go back to my filters on that column, change it back to either show everything, or you could even just show inactive items if I wanted to. So wanted to make sure everybody's aware of how to do that, because if you're doing any cleanup coming up this off season to clean up your items and such, that's a little handy trick to know, and that'll make your grids clean where you can only see your active items. Another trick when it comes to column filters I want to show is how you can use the advanced column filters. So if any of you use Excel frequently, you're probably familiar with how you can filter on certain columns in Excel. Your grids in Encore work pretty much the same way, where you can turn on advanced column filters, and you could filter on various things, like say the price of an item, or all items that start with the letter J, or whatever the case may be. There is the standard search bar at the top, but you could take it a step further and search by multiple parameters. So just to show that briefly in my system, the way you turn on those column filters is right here next to the search bar. There's an icon to turn on column filters. So when you turn that on, that gives you this extra row at the top of your grid where you can put those filters in place. So I could go, put multiple filters in place. Let's say I'm searching for items where their price is, above a certain value. This is where I can go to certain number filters. I could say that the member price must be greater than, let's say 50, and then press OK. And now it's going to filter my grid to show anything that's over the price of 50. So that's a quick, easy way I could filter that. But then you can also go to other columns and filter. Maybe that I want something that's has a certain description, or in a certain category, or maybe only items that track inventory. So maybe I filter that. So now I would only be looking at items that I'm tracking the inventory and is above the $50 price I've put in there. So pretty handy tool that I feel like a lot of people don't know about. You can do these advanced column filters here within grids. And next up, I wanted to highlight, this is actually a new feature that we released last year. We've been releasing to a lot of our programs, is the ability to unpost batches. So this feature here I want to highlight is how you can unpost a POS end of day batch. So prior to these changes, we really didn't allow you to unpost something or change something after you've posted. So, we found that when people made mistakes, it wasn't always the easiest thing to fix. So we've gradually tried to add these to multiple programs. In this case, the use case would be you've posted an end of day batch. Maybe you found a whole lot of mistakes, or something going to the wrong GL code, or maybe the wrong members were billed, or the wrong sales area was used. So anything like that, you can now unpost the entire end of day batch. That way it'll bring it back into your kind of pending charges list. You could go through in a point of sale and make those corrections and then repost it afterwards. So I want to demo that for you guys. So I'm just going to go to the POS end of day program. As you can see here, I've got a POS end of day batch that I actually posted yesterday. So if I open up that batch, you now have this button at the top that says unpost. So when I click on post, you will get a message like this, or actually you will only if you're using a third-party inventory system. So my demo system is actually set up to export to a third-party inventory system. I think it's set up for Clear Sky, for example. If you're using something like that, the system will warn you. It'll say, hey, you've already exported your list of inventory sales to the third party. If you're going to continue, make sure that you correct that, import over into that third party. So it doesn't prevent you from proceeding. It's just warning you about that possibility that it could change those numbers. So I'm going to click OK. And it just says, are you sure you want to unpost this batch? So I click yes. And then it just brings me back to the beginning, basically where you started when you posted the end of day batch to begin with. So now I could go back to, say, step 2 to review shifts. And here's where now maybe I'm going to launch point of sale and go into make my corrections. So, I could go into all chits under closed chits. maybe I've found that, this is the wrong member or something like that. I could reopen my shift and then reopen that ticket. And then either, say void it, print it, reopen it. Let's say I need to reopen it. And then now maybe I need to change the member on it. Maybe I had the wrong Johnson, for example. So I could search for a different Johnson. Maybe this should have been Pete Johnston. And now I could just close the chit back out. And you can use your imagination now. If you had more changes to do, you could keep going. But the key point is I've really unposted that batch. I was able to make my changes. And now I can proceed to the end and post that batch like I did originally. And it'll kind of put all the charges back in. It will force you to close your shifts again. So, one part I needed to do there was make sure to close my shifts. And then I could go back to posting now and should be able to post the batch. Okay, and then you get a new audit trail, which this will end up replacing the audit trail and things like your GL inquiry or member account inquiries. Anywhere it's archived this document, it'll then re-archive this new version of the document. So from the member's perspective, as long as they haven't logged into your website and seen that charge in the meantime, they won't know any different. It'll now fix that charge for them on their statement. Okay, so moving on. Another feature here I wanted to highlight for any of you that use the Encore Tea Time platform, so the web version of our Tea Sheet. Last year, we released the ability to do bulk chit processing. So what that means is you could basically build the entire Tea Sheet, within one shot, essentially. So you wouldn't have to click on the 9 o'clock tea time and build those guys, click on the 9:10, you wouldn't have to do that. If you're a private club that maybe you just member charge everything, so every charge that's linked to a tea time, you just want to bill the members for everything that's linked to their reservations, you could now do that in one shot. There's simply a button under the actions key that says process daily chits. You could also send them to the point of sale and keep them open, or you could just go ahead and send them to the point of sale and close them as well. So works a lot like the event registrations billing. If any of you have used the auto POS charge when it comes to event registrations, works a lot like that for your Tea Sheet. I would recommend checking that out if you have the Encore Tea Time system. Okay. Another tip and trick here when it comes to point of sale is here in the record manual chits program. Wanted to let everybody know you do have the ability to import from a file. I think that's a feature that a lot of users overlook. The import or the record manual chits program, if any of you have not used it, it's basically a way where you can put mass amount of charges into one grid. So let's say you have a day or an event where every member is getting charged the same thing, and maybe you don't use our event management module for whatever reason. You could actually just plug all the charges into this program. So using this program as opposed to regular point of sale would save you a lot of keystrokes, because you don't have to look up the member, touch the touch screen, hit member charge, hit close, repeat. So you can kind of stay in one grid, almost like an Excel sheet, and bill all the members. But the feature I wanted to highlight here is you could actually import from a file. So if you were to set up an Excel file in the proper format, you can actually just load that file into the screen and actually save you the effort of having to stroke all the keys for the sales items, the members, all that, especially if it's something where, say it's the same sales item for every single member. Then in Excel, you could actually just, put it in the first row and then copy and paste it all the way down, which is easier to do in Excel than it is to say, right in the software. So you can see in the screenshot here, this shows you the format that the file needs to be in, which I'll demonstrate. I've got a sample file that I'll show you. But this would be columns in Excel, where the first column would be the member number. Second column would be the reference. Then you have the sales area, the number of covers. Then you would have the sales item code or code of the item that you're using, the quantity, and then the price. So that's just an Excel file going left to right. I'll show you that in a moment on my PC. I'm just going to pull up a file. I've got a sample file here that I could show you. Oops, apologies, it popped up on my other monitor. I'll just drag that over. This is what a sample file would look like in that format, where you can see you've got member number, reference, sales area, covers, sales item code, quantity, and price. So it would have to be in that format, and it'll load it right into the system. So again, you can use your imagination a little bit. If you had 200 members on this sheet, it could save a time to just load this into the system. So I'll show you how that works. The way that works, if I flip over to my Encore system, you would just go into point of sale and open up the record manual chits program. You're going to click new to start a new batch. First thing you have to select is the chit date and time. So this is for reporting purposes. If it were important to you guys, as to what time the chit was sold, for things like meal periods and such. So I'm going to go ahead and leave it on November 14th, and I'll just leave it on today's time at 2:45. Then you have to give it some sort of batch reference. I'll just say this is a club event, for example. And then you have an option to either create chits and go ahead and post them, or you have the option to create chits and leave them open. So sort of dependent on the scenario, if maybe it was an event or day where you wanted to just create the event or create the chit, but maybe you're going to add to the tab throughout the day, then maybe you just want to leave them open. Or if you want to post them immediately, you just go ahead and post them. Once you select your basic options at the top, as I mentioned, a lot of users might just type in the data right here into the grid. But the trick I wanted to show you is how you can import a file. So you would use this option to import. First thing you can do is select where the file is. There are a couple different formats where we can do either CSV or Excel or TXT as well. But most users would be using Excel, so I'm going to demonstrate that format. Then you're just going to click the lookup next to the file folder here, and that's where you can go find your file location. So you would have to have the file saved somewhere on your computer or network that you can get to, and then you would select the file. After selecting the file, you then have to put in a couple basic parameters here, like which sales area you want this recorded under for reporting purposes. So let's say I want that recorded under club events. The next thing you have to do is choose the default payment item for all of these charges. So this program is going to charge the member and actually pay the charge. So you would have to choose how they're paying by the charge, for the charge, just like you would in point of sale and normal POS entry. So in most cases, you're going to select member charge here to member charge everybody in this grid. But then I'm just going to go ahead and show you the import. So I'm going to hit start import. And what it'll do is load all of the members into the screen. Now, I wanted to show you this error on purpose. This is if you have any issues with the file. So let's say there was a member number that it doesn't find or a sales item that it doesn't find. It's going to show you this error and basically show you where that error was in the file so that you could correct it. But then it's not going to import those rows because it obviously had some sort of issue. Now, in my example, I know that this is actually the header. So if you had a header in your Excel sheet, it's finding that first row and saying, hey, these letters or characters are not valid in your system. There's no member number that's this. There's no reference that's this. So if you're okay with that, if you know it's the header or if you know it's a row that you actually don't want to import, then you can just hit OK and proceed anyways. But you could see it loaded in the rest of my members and their charges. It has all of the quantities, amounts, the payment. If I wanted to check any of them, I could hit this button to enter the chit details and I could see what it loaded. But otherwise, it loaded everything. And now I could go to step 2, review chits, and you could see everything come through here where you could expand the chits into the grid, take a look at everything. Then lastly, I could go to step 3 to preview postings. I could see everything that it's bringing over, such as the revenue and sales tax and such. And if all looks good, now just like with any other batch, I can preview and post. In this case, I'll go ahead and post it. And now it's going to process all of those chits in the point of sale system and go ahead and post to your GL and post to accounts receivable and the member accounts and such. So again, small sample size on my system. I just did a handful of members, but if you had 200 or 300 members in that file, it's really a time saver. I'm just going to flip back to our presentation. Next up, sticking with the theme of imports, I wanted to talk about importing a file for inventory counts. So if you're using our inventory system, and you have an inventory data collector, you can import a file into your inventory count, so you don't have to actually key in every single item and its count. A lot of people don't realize that really any scanner will work with this as long as the file is formatted properly. So we get a lot of questions as to what scanner do I have to use with Jonas? And really, it's not, the importance is not with the scanner, it's more about the file that the scanner creates. So a device such as this data collector you see on the left, which I think is like a CipherLab 8000 if I'm not mistaken, they typically have a software interface that once you use it, plug it into the computer, it's going to create a file such as this on the right. And that's the key, is that you just have to have a text file in that format. So when you're thinking about buying a scanner, that's kind of the more critical piece, is can it create a text file really? And in that format. The format has to be the UPC code, then a comma, and then the count. So when you're scanning it, it scans into the document, it reads the UPC code, and then you put the count. So some users will scan every single item. If you scan every single item, or every label, I should say, you would see this basically with nothing but UPC codes. It would be UPC code, comma, and then a blank or a 0. Whereas other users might scan the item and then type in the count on the keypad. As you can see on the left, this guy has a keypad with numbers. That's when it would look like this. So this is, obviously somebody scanned and then they entered the number 5 on the keypad to tell it that I have 5 of those items. You can do it either way if you prefer to scan every label, or if you'd rather scan one label and then type in the count. But one critical piece is if you're going to scan every label, then you want to make sure to flag this option that says 0 counts default to 1. What that means is when it reads any of those blanks or zeros next to the UPC code, it'll assume that you meant for that to be a count of 1. So then at the end, it'll accumulate all of your scans throughout the process. So again, just to show you how that works, and also to demonstrate how you don't, the scanner really is not the key, it's more about the file it creates. I don't even have a scanner hooked up to my computer, but I do have a file that I can upload. So I want to show that to you. If I go into the inventory program, first you would have to run your inventory snapshot as normal. I've actually already done that. I've run a snapshot for my November inventory. But then I'm going to go to the enter counts program. Then I'm going to pull up my snapshot. And when I get to this screen where you're going to upload your counts, is using this option that says scanner upload. So again, even though the scanner type says that it's a Percon P2000, it can be any scanner as long as it creates the file properly. So this is the key. I'm going to go ahead and click the folder lookup, and I'm going to go find the file that I have saved on my computer. So again, assumption is now I've actually scanned all my items. I've saved the file to my computer. Now I'm getting to this point where I want to load it into Jonas. I'm just going to double click on that file. A few more options I have to select here is which, say, stock location I want to upload this to, which sub-location. So in my system, I'm going to put this into the golf shop under main storage. And then you've got an option to preview and also update the count. So critical there, if you only preview it, then eventually you do want to make sure to update it. So the preview is designed just to kind of check the file and make sure that it looks okay, make sure there's no errors, but it's not going to actually update the counts. So if you do preview, you want to make sure to come back and then update based on the file that you're uploading. Once again, if I am going to scan every single item, I want to make sure to check this box that says 0 counts default to 1. And it doesn't hurt to check that box too, even if you're not scanning every single item, but I would recommend pretty much always checking that when using a scanner. That way, if it reads a scan, it should count that as 1, unless there's a different number beside the UPC code. The last option that says reset previously uploaded counts, that's if, let's say you made a mistake on your original upload. So you uploaded a file, maybe the numbers are wrong or whatever. Now you want to re-upload and replace that. That's where you would want to check this box to reset previously uploaded counts. Otherwise, if you don't check that box and I uploaded 2 files, the counts will accumulate between the 2 files. So there's a scenario for that as well. Let's say you have 2 scanners in the golf shop. One person's going to scan half of the inventory. The other person's going to scan the other half of the inventory. then that's when you would not want to check this box, because you would want to upload each of those files separately so that they add up and accumulate. But once I have all my options set, now I'm going to simply click upload. And there you see it loads in all of my items that I've scanned along with the counts that you saw in that sample file. If there were any errors, you would see that at the bottom of the screen, and it would tell you why. So if there were any UPC codes, for example, that it could not find in your system, it would tell you that here at the bottom, and then you could go back and make those corrections, either to create the item or scan the correct label, whatever the case may be. Now again, in the first option, since I selected the preview only, now that I'm good with the preview, I want to make sure that I toggle the option to update. So now that I changed this to update, now I'm going to click upload, and now I want to close the screen. And that's now going to actually update my counts in my batch that I'm working on for the counts. And again, if I had another file I need to upload, maybe from a different scanner, I would just repeat that process and make sure not to check that box about resetting the counts. Okay, so now I want to flip into a tip and trick here for dining reservations. So this was an enhancement we did a couple of years ago, I believe, that was really highly requested by many clubs. So the enhancement here was to be able to set thresholds based on facility groups. So what that means is that you're setting a threshold count based on multiple facilities as a total. The scenario we were running into with clubs is that typically they didn't want to set their thresholds based on an individual dining room, but they more wanted to set their thresholds based on a kitchen, for example, because the kitchen is what's important. That's how many people can you handle in that kitchen, how many orders can you handle over a given period of time. But the reservations might have been coming from multiple outlets that one kitchen services. So this enhancement allowed us to set up facility groups and then bundle together multiple facilities into that group, and then set the threshold for that group. So I want to demo that just so everybody sees where that is in the system. That's going to be under System Administration. And then you're going to go to Activity Setups, and here's where you can set up facility groups. If you don't already have facility groups set up, you would simply click New to set up a new group. In my example here, I have a group called Dining. And after you give it a description, you would go to the Facilities tab, and here's where you can select which facilities go in this group. So here I've included two different facilities, both my grill bar and my grill room, and I want to make sure that the threshold is counted in those two facilities together. Now to actually set up the thresholds, I'm going to go to the last tab here that says Dining Reservations. And here's where you'll find the button that says Facility Group Threshold Settings after you've checked the box that says Use Within Dining Reservations. When you click on that tab, here's where now I can go set up different, say, blocks for different days to set up those thresholds. So you can see here I've got basically each day of the week that I want to set up thresholds from 5 o'clock to 9 o'clock. And when you highlight a certain block, here's where I have thresholds set up. So in my example here, I'm saying from 5 o'clock to 6 o'clock, I only want to allow 25 covers. And then from 6 o'clock to 7 o'clock, 25 covers as well. One important note here is these times you're defining, they're not necessarily defining when you're available for reservations or when you're open for reservation. It's simply defining the threshold times. So we've already previously defined in other parts of the system, when you're available for certain meal periods and reservations. This is simply telling it when this group of facilities can handle reservations and how many reservations they can handle for those thresholds. So just keep that in mind. Another trick here is you can actually copy those cover thresholds to all assignments. So if you were setting this up from scratch, you could set up all of the blocks. So first set up 5 to 9, 5 to 9, and that's a simple drag and drop. You just drag, hit add date range, or you can right click and assign. And then you click on each bubble and you can set up the thresholds. However, if you set up the first one from scratch, then I could simply click the button to copy, and now it's going to copy it all the way across. So I don't have to click on every single option here to set up the thresholds. You really just have to set up the first one and then copy it to the rest of them. All right, so moving on, let's take a look at some reporting tricks here. So wanted to highlight a member spending report. So if any of you attended the accounting webinar the other day, it's a bit of a repeat here, but I wanted to make sure the point of sale users were able to use this function as well. So a lot of people ask for member spending reports. So we do have a pretty good canned report in the point of sale called sales by member, but certain formats of it are overlooked pretty often. So I want to make sure to highlight this format here that uses one column per group or one column per category, because that's the one that brings out a really nice clean format where it's just one row per member and then shows either your groups or categories of sales going left to right, showing things like beer, food, beverages, golf, personal training, spa. That's how you can get that breakdown per member in this nice clean format of one column per group or category. Another option you have is to sort it by value sold. You could sort it highest to lowest to identify your top spenders. You could also toggle this option to include zero spenders as well. So a lot of clubs, try to pinpoint which members are not using the club. So maybe you could reach out to them and try to get them to start using the club before maybe they resign because of low usage or something like that. So that was a feature we've added to this report as well to include zero spenders. I want to demo that one for you real quick just to make sure everybody knows where that format is. So that's under point of sale. And I'm just going to go into the report section and go to sales by member. So when I'm in sales by member, first I can select my date ranges, for example. I'm just going to toggle back a few months to make sure I get some data here. But the key format I wanted to show here is, say, when you're grouping by like member and group, for example, then under the format, notice the format defaults to standard, but I wanted to highlight this one that says one column per group because it brings out the nice clean export format that would work well in Excel, for example. Here's also the option about sorting value sold highest to lowest, and here's also the option to include zero spenders as well. If you open up the option about zero spenders, you also get the option to only include clients set to include in client counts. So for example, that would pull from their status, say if they're active or resigned or inactive. If I untoggle this option, it would bring up everybody. So resigned, inactive, you may not want that. You may only want the members that you actually include in your member counts. You can also put multiple filters on this to filter by area, member, items, categories. But for time's sake, I'm just going to leave everything turned on and just hit generate. And here's where you would get a report like that shows by member all the different sales groups going left to right. Also get those zero spender information at the bottom of the report. We'll come back to that report in a moment on our next trick. So the next thing I want to highlight is how to save report formats and how to publish report formats. So for these reports you use all the time, there's ways you can save them, publish them, and then it makes it really easy if you just click the My Reports button and you can go down your list of frequently used reports. So I'll show you that on this same exact report that I've got created here. So if this is a report that I'm going to use all the time, then I can simply click this Save Report button at the top. And what that'll do is save it to this drop-down box right here where you see Select Format. So you can see I've already done this. Obviously here's my saved format. And what it does is it'll pre-populate all of those options. So that way I don't have to select them every time. So the first time you run a report, once you get it to the point where you really like it, go ahead and click Save Format, and it'll give you the option to give it a title and also the option to choose a specific date parameter to load every time. So every time I'm running this report, it can pre-populate either the previous month or the current month or the previous week. So however often you're going to run the report, you've got various options here for what it should preload. Once you've saved it, taking it a step further, here's where you can publish it. So this is how you could publish it to either yourself or other users so that they can easily run that report in their My Report section, which is basically like a list of your favorite reports. When you click that button, it allows you to create a grouping description over here. So that's like creating a folder of reports. So for a user at the club that might wear multiple hats, they might want multiple report folders, like say one for sales reports, maybe one for membership reports, things like that. And that's how you could create those groupings as you're publishing it. It will show you any users that you've already published it to. So you can see here, I've already published it to myself. But if I wanted to publish it to anybody else, like maybe my manager or somebody like that, I could simply check the box, next to their name that says publish, and then click publish. And that'll save it to that user, any other users I've published it to, where when they click on the My Reports button throughout the software, which you could see right here, now it'll show you that report in My Reports. So you can use your imagination a little bit here. If you had published multiple reports, you could have a whole list of reports. You just go down the list and you don't have to bother worrying about where to navigate to them in the system. Now when I'm here in My Reports, I simply click on the report and hit Launch Report. Notice it brings me up to that exact report with all my parameters already set. Notice it defaulted to last month because that's the date that I put in. But if I want to change anything like that, I can change it now. It just preloads all that based on my preferences that I set in the report when I saved it. We're going to come back to that report in just a moment because the next feature we want to talk about is the report scheduler. So this is a new feature we've released over the last couple of years where now we're allowing you to schedule reports to be able to be sent out or emailed to different users automatically every day. So something like this, like a sales report, maybe you want that sent out to all your managers every day at 3 a.m. or every week at 3 a.m. So you could set up this report scheduler to do that for you. Pretty cool feature that I want to make sure to show you guys how that works. First, you would have had to have created a report and saved it, just like I did just now. And then you could take that saved report and use it in the report scheduler. Another part I'll show you is how you could set up a distribution list, and that's how you could set up a distribution list to be able to send out to multiple email addresses. So I'll actually show you that part first. If you're going to need to set up a distribution list so that you could set up an email or report to go out to multiple users, where you would find that is in System Administration, and you're going to go to System Setups, and here's where you'll find Distribution List. Here you can see I've got a couple of distribution lists set up in my system. If you wanted to set up a new distribution list, you just click New, then maybe set up a new description, maybe this is Managers, and now I can select which usernames I want to include in this distribution list. Now, one thing you'll notice is that you do have to have an email address on file for the user. So if you choose a user that doesn't have an email address on file, it'll warn you here. So just keep that in mind, and I'll show you where you can link that in a moment. But I think you get the idea here. You just select all the users you want in the distribution list, and then you hit Save. And you would end up with something like this, where you can see I've got multiple users in a distribution list. Just a reminder, where you link emails to users would be either on their user account itself. So in System Administration, you would go into Users. And in the user, this is where you would have to have an email address on file. So if you notice when I selected this user before, it was warning me that they did not have an email address, and this is why. So in order for that feature to work, you would have to make sure you have an email address linked to their user account that you're selecting. So when it comes to that report scheduler, that's step one. First, you need users with email addresses, and then possibly a distribution list with those multiple users linked. Now I can actually go to the report scheduler itself. For a sales report, such as out of point of sale, first thing I would do is go into point of sale, go into the report section, and here's where you're going to find the report scheduler. So it has to be a report you've already created before and saved, and you notice this one comes up right away because it's the only one I have set up. It shows you all the parameters you've set, like showing the previous month, for example. And then you set up the recurrence pattern. So this is the recurrence pattern for how often this report will send. When you click that button, you get a screen where you could set up that recurrence pattern. Very similar to recurrence features in, like, say, Outlook or appointments, where you could set up appointments on a recurring basis. Same idea here. You could say that it should send out either daily, weekly, monthly, or yearly, and then with each of those you set up how often it sends. So like in this case, it's going to send the first Monday of every month, for example. Then you could say, when does this recurrence end? Does it end after a certain number of months or end after a certain date? or you could say no end date, where it just keeps sending. So we'll leave it at that. Go ahead and click OK. Next up is where you link the email addresses that this will send to. So you could either link individual email addresses by coming here, and you would put in each user manually and their email address, or you could link a distribution list like I mentioned before, and this is where you would select that distribution list. Lastly, you want to click on this email setting button, and here's where you can decide who the email comes from. So if that's important that it comes from a certain email address and name, this is where you would enter that. You could also optionally choose to carbon copy certain emails, or you could even blind copy certain emails here as well. So that's where you'd set up all the emails from the report scheduler. Once you save this, then that will start working. One quick note is that the time these emails send out is at 3 a.m. every day. So that is hard coded. So whenever you set up a report schedule, whether it's daily, weekly, monthly, when they send out, it will be at 3 a.m. on that schedule. We did that on purpose just because that's typically a time that there's no activity going on. You've most likely closed the previous day, but you haven't started a new day. So we do send them out at 3 a.m. automatically. Okay, so I think that pretty much wraps up our tips and tricks. So we're going to close off by telling you about a new program called UserVoice here. So I'm going to pass it back to Steve, and he's going to tell us a little bit about UserVoice.
Hey, thanks, Corey. So last year we opened up UserVoice, which is a site that allows our client community to post requests for enhancements or changes within our applications. And this is not just for Encore. This will be used for mobile POS, Clubhouse Online, email marketing. So the various Jonas Club list of applications, you can post feedback and improvements in this site. So we just want to take a few minutes to kind of make sure our users are aware of it. And it's been out for about a year now. We do have a good list of ideas and feedback in the system that we are reviewing, and we are working towards kind of scheduling some of the enhancements into our 2025 schedule for improvements. So I strongly suggest everyone log in, view the items that are currently there. If there's something that you're interested in, vote on it. You can see ideas separated by categories and modules, so point of sale, inventory, accounts receivable, accounts payable. Those ideas will all be separated by module, and you can view, vote on them. You can add new ones if you're looking for something specific in the system that you can't find. We just strongly recommend our client base log in and share the thoughts of how we can improve the application through UserVoice. Now, to log into UserVoice, if we can get to the next screen, Corey, is through our support site. So hopefully everyone on the call has access to our support site. If you don't, contact either your main primary contact for the Jonas system at your club, or contact our support team. They'll set you up with an account to get logged into support.jonasclub.com. Once you're logged in, on the home screen, you'll see an option for UserVoice. And clicking on UserVoice will direct you right to the website. It'll create an account for you automatically using your email address. And then at that point, you can post your ideas and vote on other ideas and share your thoughts on items that are already posted. And the benefit here is that you actually can see which items are in review, which items might be scheduled for release, and when they're actually released. So the UserVoice system will actually update the users based on what you voted on and what you've commented on, and it'll let you know when those items have changed their status into either in review or in production or released. So definitely something that we want everyone to log in and take some time to review.
Okay. Awesome. Thanks, Steve. Really cool stuff there. So everybody make sure to start sending in your ideas. So that pretty much wraps up our content. I want to now just open it up for some Q&A. I see we've already got a question or two in the chat box. So we'll get, take a look at those. If anybody has any questions, you can go ahead and start to throw them in there. We'll start to answer them. First question I see here is from Aviance. It says, is there a way to sort by sales area on the end of day finalized POS audit trail? We would like it to post already sorted by the sales area, i.e. F&B revenue. Off the top of my head, I'm not sure. Honestly, I'm going to take a look at that. Let's go into the end of day program. I know you can filter by certain sales areas. So for example, if I'm just going to unpost that like I did earlier so we could take a look at it. I know you can choose to run the end of day separately by sales area. So in this example, I could run only the dining room or only the patio when I'm running that. But I don't think we have an option to change how it's sorted. We can change on this screen to sort by sales area, but Steve, I don't think that will change how it posts. I can sort my grid, just for purposes here, but I believe when I post it, it's still going to be sorted by number.
It won't have impact on the actual audit itself, but it's a good idea to provide some sorting mechanisms for the audit.
I think, is it sorted by chit number by default? Yeah, you can also change it to sort by member and then sales area. So you might want to check out that option, Aviance. You can, defaults to sorting by chit number, but you could change it to member and sales area if that would help. So you could check out that and let us know if it helps, but we'll keep that in mind too for maybe future enhancements. Okay. Any other questions? Feel free to throw them in the chat. We'll give everybody a couple of minutes. You're working on posting a question. Oh, there we go. Okay. Any timeline on future sales item price changes? Good question. So Steve, I guess that would be changing the price on an item on a given date. So say on January 1st, the sales item price should change to this.
Yes, Candy, we don't currently have a plan for that yet. I know we discussed this a few weeks ago, and we hope to have something in place next year before your next item price changes. But right now we have nothing scheduled. Definitely something we want to do, but we don't have an exact time frame as to when a tool will be available in Encore to change your item prices.
Again, I don't see any other questions. So I think if that's all the questions we have, we can probably wrap up. If, as we mentioned earlier, you will receive a recording of this 24 hours after the webinar. So tomorrow around this time, you should receive the recording. Also, you have the handouts if you want to download those. And other than that, we look forward to seeing you guys on the next one. Thanks, everyone. You guys have a great day.
Thanks, everyone.